Welcome back to College Football Addiction, the Rose Bowl. Ohio State and Oregon, and the Buckeyes scored to open this game and absolutely never looked back. We talked with Zach Smith, former Ohio State wide receivers coach. We spoke with Spencer McLaughlin of Locked on Ducks, and none of the three of us that talked about this game pregame quite expected this. In fact, I think I've said on 4 different channels now, whether they be my own or interviews or wherever, that this would be the best game of the college football playoff. And if you're an Ohio State fan, maybe you believe it was, but it was not. This game was never in doubt. A 41-21 final score doesn't even get close to how dominating Ohio State was. This was the most impressive performance of the college football playoff. And it was the second time that Ohio State has had the most impressive performance, because still think the second most impressive performance of this college football playoff was what Ohio State did to Tennessee just about 10 days ago. Let's talk about it. It opens up with a Jeremiah Smith touchdown where I think the play was essentially just a microcosm of what we were going to see for the rest of the day. Him taking the ball, breaking a couple of tackles, using his speed to not only burn everybody down the sideline, but then waltz into the end zone truly shows you how easy this was about to be for Ohio State. 4th and a yard. Later, Oregon ends up punting the ball on the next drive. I thought that was weird. Dan Lanning had a lot of punts late in this game that you're down by so much. I think you should just go for them. But at that point, I don't know how much it matters anyway. But, Jeremiah Smith opened this game up, showing why he is who he is. On the next drive, up 7-0, Smith with another great play. He high points the ball, gets the ball to the 50 in double coverage. They are stopped. They have to punt, but then a bad punt by Oregon gives Ohio State a short field. It's all of a sudden a dime to Ibuka, 14-0. Oregon starts to get a little bit desperate. They start a drive with a reverse that ends up losing yardage. They have to punt again. It's 17-0. They miss on a 4th and 2. They leave Jeremiah Smith wide open. It's 24-0. TreVeyon Henderson makes it 31-0. Obviously, a couple of scores by Oregon on each side of the half make it a little bit closer, and Oregon even gets the ball back at one point, down 34-15 with the ball. And you're kind of thinking, right, they're not going to do this, are they? But down 34-15 with the ball, Ohio State's defense comes out, gets a couple of sacks. 3rd and 17, they get another sack on that play. Henderson touchdown makes it 41-15, and the game is over. Oregon does score one more late early in the 4th to make it a 41-21 final. Ohio State is absolutely insane, and here's what's most impressive to me. You've got a true freshman who would be a top 5 pick in this year's NFL draft. We talked about this on the last time we talked about Ohio State. I don't necessarily need to rehash that, but it is unfair to both him and the rest of college football that he has to come back and play 2 more years. He's the type of player where I could see the draft rules changing. I'm not saying they will, I'm not predicting that, but he's that kind of player. He would be a top 5 pick in next year's NFL draft. 7 receptions, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns. His impact was ridiculous. He beat Oregon by himself tonight. And then obviously Judkins throwing in 84 yards, Henderson throwing in 81. These guys were absolutely unstoppable in every single facet. Defensively, and I'll even give Oregon the garbage time touchdown. If I was going to tell you that Ohio State was going to hold Oregon to 21 points tonight, you'd have said Ohio State wins this thing going away. But backing up on Jeremiah Smith for just a moment, his charisma, his confidence, the confidence that just exudes out of him to tell everyone, I'm the best wide receiver in the country. I am the best receiver in this playoffs, and you will not stop me. And then to go out and do it against Oregon, against a very talented secondary. He didn't do this against, the school of the deaf and the blind. He did this against Oregon, 13-0. The Ducks. The team this was a close spread. This was a 2.5-point spread. This wasn't like Ohio State was favored by 14 like other schools in the playoff were. This was an absolute mammoth performance. This kid is ridiculous. may go down as one of the best wide receivers to ever play this college game. We'll see how he translates to the next level. I'm betting it will be pretty good. Will Howard, really good tonight. There were a lot of questions about Will Howard. He played really well in that Oregon game the first time. I know he had the play at the end that everybody remembers. It's what gets shown on SportsCenter, this, that, and the other. I thought Will Howard was really good tonight. The offensive line gave him time. He found guys. I'm not taking anything away from Howard, but I'd like to be out there throwing to number 4. That's not too tough of a job, but he put some dimes out. Man, that second touchdown to go up 14-0, man, that was insanely good. As impressive as Smith was, as impressive as Will Howard was, the running backs going for over 170 yards combined, as impressive as all that was, the defense was suffocating. And I know we knew Ohio State had a good defense. We knew that they were very good on that side of the ball. And they held Tennessee down. And everybody was just a little cautious, right? Did they really hold Tennessee down, or was it the fact that Samson went out? Was it the fact that they had some wide receivers go out? Was it the fact that you were playing a home game and Tennessee never got comfortable? Was Nico just on an off game? Well, every single one of those questions got answered tonight, didn't it? Against Oregon. Again, we're not talking about some crap program. Against Oregon, they absolutely shut down everything that Dillon Gabriel wanted to do. How many sacks did they end up? How many tackles for loss did they end up with? Dillon Gabriel is not a bad player. He holds the FBS record for touchdown passes. Obviously, the man knows how to find people in the end zone better than anyone else at this point. And they made him look like deer in the headlights all night. He was phenomenal. Their defense was phenomenal against him. I will say on the Oregon side of things, a nice little push to kind of get back into it, to get it to 34-15, to give us some reason to watch the second half. You had it down to 19 with the ball. You go out and get an 8 there or even a 6. You're down 2 touchdowns or down a touchdown 2 and a field goal if you can get the 2-pointer. You had a shot, I guess, to kind of make us care. We just couldn't get it done. Ohio State just way too good. I don't really think this is an indictment on Oregon at all. 13-0 is really impressive. I'll tell you, before the season, when I did my season predictions, I predicted Oregon to go 12-0 and then lose in the Big Ten championship game to Ohio State, which I still think is what would have happened had Ohio State not lost to Michigan. But still a really nice year for Oregon and Dan Lanning. They're built to last, right? They're built to last. Their roster, as good as it is, and I think it's a top 5 roster in college football, it's still not on Ohio State's level. I said this after last week's game. I said it before this game. If Ohio State was to play like they did against Tennessee 3 more times, they will win the national championship. And now that number is down to 2 because they did it again. And if they do it in 9-10 days against Texas, they're going to win that game. And then I don't care who comes out of that other side. I like Ohio State to win that one too, right? But they have to put it together. You can't have a stinker. You can't have the Michigan game happen again. You can't have some of these other games that have happened in the past, mostly Michigan. But if Ohio State plays like this, they are going to win the national championship. Texas, a lot of questions about them. Penn State, a lot of questions about them. Obviously, we didn't get to see the Notre Dame-Georgia game yet. Our thoughts, our prayers are with everybody or anyone impacted by what's going on in New Orleans right now. That's absolutely terrible and means way more than any football game or any matchup that we'll talk about. So if you are one that prays, if you haven't already sent up a prayer for the folks in New Orleans, the families of the folks impacted, the people that are there traveling, then certainly do that. But a lot of questions for every team left in this playoff. There's no doubt about it. What's Notre Dame going to look like? What's UGA going to look like with a backup quarterback? Penn State hadn't put teams away like we maybe thought they should in both their matchups. But in Texas, right? The Texas game, we talked about that earlier today. Some questions there. But Ohio State, how many questions are there for that? What about Ryan Day? How many questions are there for Ryan Day right now? I know that Ohio State fans still pretty pissed off about losing to Michigan. I don't blame you. I would be too. You don't want to lose to your rival ever. But how many questions are there for Ryan Day right now? Certainly seems like that's been quieted. Certainly seems like what happened against Michigan lit a fire under this team, and they heard everybody talking for 3 weeks. They heard everybody's doubt. They heard all the hot seat talk. They heard how this team just can't get it done, and look what they've done since then. Very, very impressive to see what they've done since that Michigan game. It doesn't erase the Michigan game. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It doesn't mean they don't need to beat the crap out of Michigan next year when they play them. It doesn't mean any of that. But you're 60 minutes now from that ultimate prize, which is playing for a national championship. You're 60 minutes away now, and you get to play the SEC's, best, second best, whatever. You get to play Texas, one of the biggest brands in college football history. You're 60 minutes away from now that national championship game. And if you're asking me right now, it's very early. We've not seen any details come out from either side. We haven't talked to any experts. We haven't gotten Zach or Jerry or anybody back on to talk about these things yet. I'm leaning Ohio State. Ohio State's my pick right now to win the national championship. Now, Georgia comes out and beats Notre Dame by 40 tomorrow. Maybe we rethink some things. But as of right now, it's Ohio State. And then it's everyone else. Their roster's better. They're playing better right now. I think there's a little bit more of a motivation factor with them right now. I haven't watched them blow big leads like Texas did in back-to-back weeks. I haven't seen them kind of struggle like Penn State has. So we'll see. And then we'll see again what happens with Georgia and Notre Dame. Thoughts and prayers are with that situation that's much more important than football at this moment. What are your thoughts? Did you go to the game? The Rose Bowl is one of the most fun times I've ever had. I was there it was January 6th, 2014, when Jameis and Florida State beat Auburn. Ton of fun. Loved the Rose Bowl. It was very cool. I still have grass. I still have sod from it. It's not sod, it's fake, but I still have it. And I still have the outsides are fake anyway. And I still have some rose petals from it. So Rose Bowl's fun. If you went to it, let me know down in the comments. We will continue to cover everything Ohio State. We'll talk about the Oregon season and put it in perspective later on. So if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, we certainly would appreciate that. Here on College Football Addiction, we'll try and break down every single playoff game for the rest of the way. I think we've done a fair job of that so far, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, Ohio State fans, Oregon fans. I want to hear from you too, but I know maybe you turned it off at halftime and said, just get me out of here. Get me to 2025. So appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in to College Football Addiction.